Hello everyone, and welcome back to our podcast on high-value analytics. And I'm joined today by two guests, Rudi, who holds a strategy advisory role at Qlik and actually brings the a framework on which we are building high-value analytics. And Ramunas, who is the head of high-value analytics at Infotrust. So guys, welcome back to the show and nice to have you here. Rudi, in our first podcast, I clearly remember one phrase that you mentioned, that you cannot buy a competitive advantage with a tool. You are creating it by applying that tool into the practice. But you have a very clear value framework behind you that you are bringing on the table. Could you please share what this framework is all about and why it works?
Yeah, in a nutshell, this framework supports decision making and aligns initiative in the organization, like buying and using an analytics tool to achieve competitive advantage with the core competencies of the organization and aligned with external factors which are relevant for the operations of an organization. So every journey starts from somewhere. So how is this framework being applied? Let's set first the stage of the vision and understanding how companies related to the maturity can access it. So usually it starts with understanding what your business does. This is your core competence, and your core competence is constantly pressured by external factors like monetary policy, disruptive supply chain, global events, and so on and so forth, right? And those things have impact on certain KPIs in the organization. And in order to improve or to preserve those KPIs, you do certain activities, certain things, right? So if we put it into the context of analytics and buying a tool, you would try to align the tool to your core competency to battle external factors and improve KPIs. So the next question would be, how do I identify where I have to work on, right? There are two categories which you can apply. One is the risk perspective, so there are risks and opportunities out there. Risks is something you have to react to, like regulations, right? So if you don't adjust your operations to the regulatory requirements, you would get fines, etc., right? But opportunities, this is something you have to want to follow, right? So, and this is where it decides how your organization approaches change on how you will monetize on that opportunity. For example, AI is out there everywhere, right? And it forces organizations to change actually. And it depends on how you approach the change. So, and that's where the framework comes into the game, right? If you know that you have opportunities out there in the market, which if you follow and do these opportunities, you will receive value. This sets the scene. Derived from there, you can define goals in order to improve the KPIs with your operations. And in order to find the areas which you have to improve in operations, we are then looking at the pain points in departments. After we identify the pain points, it's pretty easy and straightforward to quantify them. And this will give you a view on what will happen to your organization if you eliminate those pain points, achieve that goal, improve the KPIs, and battle the external factors. So it's connected end to end and basically interdependent within each other, right? So this framework helps you to understand what to do before change happens and what impact the change will have. And derived from there is the next step, because you mentioned earlier, using the tool is key. How you use your technology enablers within the organization will determine what value you will get, right? And the next important step is the implementation. So without using the tool, there will be no value. You have to implement it, you have to adopt it. And this is basically the framework front to back, from external factors to the implementation.
Yeah, I like the moment that you said that actually the framework helps companies to adjust to the change, which is inevitable, right? Change is inevitable in our market, and then calculate value, what to address, then calculate value, and clearly see what impact you can do, and use the right tool for it, and then start build. And for that, we have Ramunas. Ramunas, you applied this framework that Rudi just on a high level described. We are going to dive into it.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to start just remembering the very beginning when we started to talk to customer, to specific case. There were few words said, like we have a tool, we have a lot of data, but we have no value. So the tool was very low usage. The data was not accurate, and no one could identify where and how to get the value. So this is the first touch point where the value framework was very much needed to apply and to find the way to set up the roadmap, how to drive the needed drivers and deliver the value for business. Shortly about the company itself, it is in a highly volatile market segment. And the segment is divided into 3 major sectors, like minerals and metals, commodity sector, it is agriculture sector, and it is energy sector. All these sectors share the same challenges, which are related directly to volatility. In general, the price fluctuations in the market. So our case is an agriculture commodity sector. It's a company producer who is like a primary and same time secondary processor of the grains, and the main challenge we have, or let's say the process itself, the core, is to make sure that soft commodity raw materials are efficiently converted into market-ready products, which are being sold as well in the same market and in similar industries. The intermediate processor faces two-sided risks. So one is input part, where you buy a raw material and the changes are happening every day. And on the other hand, what you produce with your costs, depending on the input prices, you sell in the market, and the price in the market, again, it depends what is willingness in the market to pay for your product. So from both sides, volatility comes and the pressure is very huge. So in general, agriculture sector as such is the most volatile among the commodity segment industries, and it has, I would say, the highest vulnerability of the margin. So the solution has to help. Exactly what solution does, it helps to take a decision immediately when the changes occur, not waiting and doing or running long process of calculation, assessment, simulation, and so on. So you have to react immediately. So this gives ability to take a decision, which is with very high quality decision, applying all the elements and clearly knowing what margin you are going to have after decision.
Thank you, Ramunas. Very clear regarding the solution and regarding the company. So let's now combine how actually step by step it was implemented. And if I understood from Rudi's framework that he just laid ground for, the first step in the framework is the addressing external and internal factors that company is facing. In your case, what was the internal and external factors that was company facing and how you address them?
Okay. Sure, it is the first step. You have to look at the company in relation to market, right? And it is external factors. As you know, it is an intermediate processor in a commodity market. So the main touch is, first of all, raw materials. So the raw materials they buy, it is raw materials, in this specific case, it is grains, wheat, what we are buying to produce the product. Also, we buy energy, we buy a lot of chemicals from the market, many other components which are a core part of the cost structure for the company, and we can't affect anyhow how the prices are changing in the market. So the first point for us, it was very clear to understand where these factors like a price of raw material components and chemicals goes into our company and which places are affected immediately. So in particular, it is very clear related to product cost, which we are producing and selling. The second point, I would also mention that there is internal factors affecting changes in how the margin is generated itself. So at this specific case, we very clearly identified that there is many big disconnecting between departments. There were no sharing of the data, very low automation. That's why the tool was in a very low usage. And there were many repeated processes which were done or organized independently in each department, which meant that departments with their decisions are not affecting other departments, and there are no collaboration, which means if you want to go, if you want to be fast, to react to the change in the market, both sides has to be managed well enough. It means the first point, you have to know very well how you react to market change, and are you able to react fast due to internal factors. There are some things which doesn't work, like data accuracy, connectivity between departments, automation, data flow between departments, so that everyone could collaborate and finally take a decisions which drives the margin increase or securing the margin for future.
All right. And how you would summarize those external factors application, Rudi, in Ramunas' case?
So related to the example of margin simulation, there are different external factors. So Ramunas just laid out the example, and derived from that, one external factor is the input price. You don't have any control about the input price. The next, another external factor could be the regulatory environment, and one which is really important is the supply side shock. So there can be a lot of supply available or no supply available due to economical circumstances, global events, and so on and so forth. And those impact the organization, their core competency, and in this use case, securing margin. And then there is also an internal factor, which Ramunas mentioned, which is the complexity of the process. This process consists of 7 departments where a decision is made in one department and then processed downstream. So, and there are also other examples, right? So, for example, if the inflation is rising, you want to utilize or improve working capital in order to improve treasury yield. So there is a connection, and this proves that the framework can be applied to any situation.
All right. So we are clear with the external and internal factors that company face. This is the phase 1 in the framework creation process. So what are the next steps in the process here, how you apply them?
Well, as a next step, we started to collect all pain points across all departments. And the goal of this collecting pain points was for us to understand very clearly each department, what processes they have, what data they use, what tools they use, what pain points each of them has, and also to identify what they are sharing as the same issue, as same challenge among each department. So we started the business discovery sessions. We went through every department. We discussed with many business teams. We made a huge matrix of pain points and identified exactly these most important or mostly shared data points, processes, and what each department is producing as an outcome, which has been shared either internally or shared with our departments. Overall, all these decisions independently from each other we were creating in one or another way is a must for ours. And that's how the process in general looks, how we are processing let's say, the core decision on pricing and how we are securing the margin, and exactly how we are reacting to the external factors which are impacted department by department.
Mm-hmm. And how many points in your case you collected?
Actually, we collected more than 20 pain points. It was much more, but we set 20. Because there was, at least for us, from our side, we clearly saw it has either minor or the major impact to the core information every department was needed to take a decision, secure a margin. So we were focusing also linking to the organizational goals. So we can't do everything. We have to select something, prioritize, and identify the biggest impact to the processes and measures or results produce each department, which contributes the main goal. It's a securing margin and improving risk management and organization as such.
Very, very clear. Rudi, in this second step regarding collecting the pain points, according to the framework, what is important things?
We talked about the external factors, right, and that they are the guardrails for your initiatives. And in the next step, when you do, as Ramunas mentioned, the discovery session, you want to get into the weeds and understand how you can battle that external factor and what activities are contributing to improving that actually, right? And therefore, it's important to understand, based on the perfect process, you need to have some kind of a state-of-the-art target state towards you are working, right? And those pain points have to anchor to something. So we utilize this happy path in the example which Ramunas mentioned in order to understand which department in which process step has which business objectives, what are the KPIs to measure their activities, and what are the activities performed for that specific department. And it goes across 7 departments. We identified over 20 pain points, so it's a really complex process, right? So it was important here to evaluate the discussions we have and visualize them. And therefore we used then a heat map to show the complexity, because the red areas are the ones which are bad, so you have to look at them, right? We identified interdependencies and then produced an opportunity profile, which is a evaluation of the heat map along 2 dimensions. So one was strategic importance, so how important is the pain point for the organization, and what is the pain intensity. And behind pain intensity is, for example, that everything is manual, no IT enablement, and basically a paper process, right? This would be like the lowest point of a scale. And the highest point would be that you are already enabled and don't have any pain points, and somewhere in the middle will be the truth, right? And derived from there, you can then derive measures in order to improve the pain points.
All right. And how you are weighting those pain points on the axis of the pain and the strategic importance? Who is giving the weight to the specific pain points? In Ramuna's case, it was 20. How you are actually putting the gravity on the pain point?
Yeah. To not overcomplicate the process in such complex environment, we did a qualitative measure, right? So we talked with the people about how they perceived the strategic importance of this specific pain point or opportunity, and what's the pain intensity. So there were qualitative measures behind it, no hard facts, let's say. The hard facts were derived in the next step, but Ramunas will give insights on how we did this.
Let's dive into exactly this next step then. What is the next step, Ramunas? I'm eager to hear.
So after we discovered all pain points among each department, we had a clear big list of pain points. We were not sure which pain point will have a biggest impact into result for a whole organization. So going by each department, we were calculating the impact we can give or will affect the total result. And we went step by step. Of course, the first point was like a commercial organization, like a pricing, or we call it a trading desk, who clearly had to have production cost in order to set up the right price, selling price, where the margin comes from. So this was very clear as an angle which we had to start with, but it was not enough, because this effect, few percent of margin effect, gives enormous value for the company. But they can't do it alone. So near to them next immediately is like procurement, who based on demand, what commercial people are forecasting, the demand which they are going to sell, they should plan immediately the purchase part, using many techniques how to buy it. Next to them immediately comes production, because production team has to forecast production cost. So it is a combination. So first point which we find out that it is a combination which joining them together, commercial people can improve margin, improve it by 1-2% means already millions. Procurement secures the raw material will be in place and also buys it with a cheaper price or hedge it depending on the situation, which tools they will use. Production team can ensure that the production cost will be not higher than this and this and this, and same way reducing production cost, reducing raw material purchasing, and increasing sales price because you are competitive, reacting quickly and winning the opportunities in the market. So it was a main setup where we saw clearly that the margin uplift would be a core driver which involves everyone around in order to give this data, tool, and ability to take business decisions and move forward to this direction.
So the sales department, procurement department, and production department, you found out, contribute to the margin leaks, and you calculated the amount, actually, how much in value it is actually leaking in the company. Do I understand correctly?
Exactly. Actually, I would say that not a single department can go alone. It's a business, or let's say it's a decision based on many departments as a joint decision. But definitely, yes, this was the core which clearly saw that either company can't win opportunities and increase same as revenue and margin. When you quickly win opportunity, margin is always higher because you react fast, you offer the best price. Sometimes the price can be higher, but you are fast to supply the demand, which gives a huge business competitive advantage in one case. On another, you can plan very clearly to future which material when you will need. Therefore, you can use many financial instruments like hedging and so on, or buying raw material into your warehouse just to make sure that you can supply the demand. So it was a collection. So commercial people very clearly, we calculated with them that few percent of margin can give millions. It's one point. Production team could plan their capacity and can ensure that they will produce what's been asked by commercial people, and procurement, they will deliver it. And logistics, who will deliver on time to customer, where the customer service level also goes up. Customer service going up, revenue goes up, same the margin comes together. So it is a combination, and it's very clear that only join it together, they could deliver the highest value by very high quality of business decisions.
Very, very clear. Rudi, and in this value deriving actually to numbers, you mentioned it's a qualitative at the beginning. In the matrix now it's actually tangible, it's already real value. Yeah. How you are like getting around this complexity? Is it easy to calculate this, what Ramunas is mentioning, or you have to have a high degree in mathematics to get it done?
So once you have the pain points, it's actually pretty straightforward, right? So you have identified already where the issues are or where the opportunities are, which, if improved or if followed, will provide value. So now it comes down to create a calculation model which shows the improvement in three different buckets. One is top line, so how much more revenue can the tool help us to achieve? And I say on purpose help us because using and buying the tool will not create more revenue. It's about utilizing it in a certain context. And the other one is operational scalability. So how much time through these improvements can we save our business people so that they can focus more on value generating activities rather than addressing interdependencies and manual overhead. And the other one is bottom line. So how did we do this? How did we approach it? So we talked earlier about activity level. Everything starts from there. If you understand what is being done across the process on activity level, you can easily identify the as-is. You know the people involved into the process. You know the department, the pain point, the activity, people involved into the process, how much time they spent there, what the cost is, so you get a view on the process intensity. And the departments, they do these activities in order to improve certain KPIs and to achieve a business objectives, like increase the margin, right? Ramunas just mentioned how the dynamic worked at this company, for this example. And we basically laid it out in the value calculation model. What is the operational value? So how much time can you save? Which KPIs are being improved? So what revenue streams do we actually enable? And since Qlik can cover the whole use case end to end from collecting the data until producing the business outcome, we were also able to consolidate the vendor landscape, which is a huge benefit for IT. I mean, there is a lot of shadow IT there. Business sometimes procures their own systems in order to act fast, right? And it produces overhead for other departments, brings us back to the dependencies, right? So there are different beneficiaries, and one of the benefits was also that we could consolidate the vendor landscape.
So both parts, the revenue and also the costs, and what I'm hearing, the total cost of ownership went down significantly.
Yes, correctly, and this was due to the consolidation of vendors, since this reduces the overhead in managing the tool, managing the connection to the business users and so on. So there were benefits for everyone involved.
So we have a clarity on external and internal factors. Then we have a clarity on the pain points, and we went through all the processes with each of department. Now we have quantified that pain points into real monetary value from both revenue side, top and bottom line to costs. So what do you do with this beauty, Ramunas? How do you now let's implement, or what, please?
Yes, we have to implement. Once it is on paper, on discussions, somehow we have to implement. And here I would also return a bit to when we touched a bit about the company's goals. I want to remind that one of the company's goals, which were very clearly expressed by top management, they wanted to change their culture from volume, selling volume, to value, and which very well connects to, again, with pain points and the core processes which drives the margin. So this goal meant that we have clearly focused on processes, tools, and people together, which drives exactly the value creation. In particular cases, margin. And it's even not revenue, it's a margin. So this was a task for us to find out of all these pain points, processes, people, and also technology, which was in place, by the way, when we started, to find the very clear roadmap, where from to start, and what are the priorities, how we have to, from which point we have to start, because to run immediately on the margin simulation with dynamic margin management, one of the processes or engines which is empowered into dynamic margin management, was not very much possible, because this simulation required many elements.
Interesting.
So we started to sort out what is the first, what is second, what is third, and so on. Definitely, the first point was the data collection, and make sure that the data accuracy of the data is good level or high quality, in order you feed all the rest of processes. So this was as a pain point, or let's say the first priority which we had to solve, looking as a common denominator among all the departments. It's a market data feed. So the first common denominator which was shared among all the departments was market data feed. It's a data accuracy, and it's not like a dashboard from the market. It's integrated data into the system, which means that in real time I touch that data. Once it changes, I immediately see the change, and I know how I have to react because I have a process, I have understanding how to do a business decision. So it was one point. It stands as a first priority what we had to do. A second one, which was also very clearly identified among everyone, it was like bill of materials. It's recipes. We talk about producer. They are producing products. So all core processes are based on bill of materials, on recipes, where RP system runs a huge algorithms process calculating what the actual production cost is. But this was not enough because we had a clear goal to secure margin, which means it is a future. IRP system is not producing future. So what we had to do, it's take the same logics of the algorithms and BOM or bill of material calculation and implement as one of the future, one of the, we call it margin simulation engine part, and run the same algorithms in analytics in order we could immediately take market price when it changes and at the same time, near real time or real time, give to people clear understanding once in the market forecast price changes, where my production cost will be affected in all the levels of the recipes we use. And the third point was volume outflows, which was as well very important aspect as a data sets, let's say, because once you produce, you buy raw material, which is like on one unit of measure, you produce, you convert it into different units of measures, and when you sell, you have a third one. So if you do not automate this, people use a lot of time manually to do this. So if I have an inquiry, let's say, let's sell 10 tons of this product. So for me, as a commercial guy, is 10 tons. For producer who runs a production process, it's not 10 tons. It is much, much more. And finally, for procurement team, it can mean even differently because it's a different packaging they buy and so on and so on. So it was a third element which was very important to implement, and all of them combined, we could finally arrive to margin simulation, which means that external factor gives a clear trigger. We have a notification, price changed. It has to run through all the process, and all interrelated departments immediately knows how much I have to buy, what capacity I have to grant to produce, and what tons, commercial tons, I'm going to sell. And finally, I can say my commercial ton price should be at this level, not lower, not higher. Not higher because I have to be competitive, not lower because my production cost is gonna be like that. So all this is related. And bearing in mind this is complex process of developing such algorithm and engine, of course, gave us very clear understanding step by step. So we started from data collection, integrating the data, then sales data, sales applications with forecast, demand forecast, then the sales volumes, customer orders, inquiries, and conversion into raw material equivalents. And next step, then production cost calculation, applying fixed cost, variable cost, and variable cost comes from the market. And finally, conversion measure of units. Once we know what we want to sell, procurement and production immediately knows their own quantities they have to process. So that was the roadmap wherefrom we started. Data integration, collection, sales data, ordinary sales data, sales operation processes, then forecasts, budgets, then demand to produce, and finally production team a demand to buy a raw material. So step by step, we were implementing application after application, and as a final point, we arrived to one core application where the engine of margin simulation started to work.
Yeah, it's magically appeared that core application in your conversation. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Ramunas. So you actually had to do a lot of homework because before actually starting to work, like a streamlined data quality and all that stuff that needs to be taken care of before the product actually takes shape in the application. And how difficult it was in your case, and how did you manage this?
I would use more word like not difficult but challenging.
Okay.
Because difficulties are everywhere. Challenges drives with very clear motivation what you want to achieve. The most important point, goal, if you have a goal and objectives, what you need to achieve. Once you know it, the main, I would say what we met and what we experienced during that case, it's very important on time to say what not to do. Because there is always a way to do simpler, faster, and deliver a result in much shorter terms, but it will not be long-lasting. So if you understand that long-lasting is a must, and you have a goal to secure the margin and make sure that we can see far to future what we are going to have, how we're securing the margin, you have to look for long-lasting decisions. So the challenging point was to be on time with a decision, please not do this. And this was very important. And all the rest, it's like every organization has master data correctness, transactional data correctness, recodifications, master data recodification, transactional recodification. Every organization meets the same challenge, but our focus was we knew why we do this. And we always were clearly connected to one goal, to build a margin simulation engine. And it was not possible without all the team, all the departments. That's why the roadmap itself was very important. This is the starting point we started, but I also can say that when we started after the roadmap, we agreed with management. This roadmap was adjusted many times because during the process, when you are having this journey, you always discover something new. Even not new, but the market environment changes. New factors arise, new changes comes from the market, and there are something which you definitely cannot control. Who could say that the war will start in some country and will affect energy prices spikes? So no one was ready for that. But it's a question, are you able to react fast? So if we can react fast, we can take quickly decisions and we can manage the risk. So this margin simulation engine also what gave, it improved and fueled, I like to say fueled the process of risk management. Because risk management covers all the organization. There are many, many, many initiatives, disciplines in risk management. As soon as you can see the effect on your organization, what changes outside your organization, as better you manage the risk.
All right. Thanks, Ramunas. Rudi, when the factors, external factors are clear, pain points are clear and fine-tuned, and they are, how to say, quantified. Now the building process, as Ramunas said, starts. How framework applies in the building process, if you can add anything to what Ramunas said?
One component of being successful is implementing, right? And this is a part of the process we follow when we apply this strategic discovery approach. So, and what we have achieved so far is now that we know what change will mean for our organization from operational model perspective. So what changes in operations, what are the pain points, what do we need to tackle, what is the value we get from it, how does it connect to our goals, and which external factors it battles, right? And this happened all before a single tool has been deployed. So that's what we mean. You have to get the visibility before you do the change. The other extreme is, and this is what companies often do, if some event occurs, then you want to have short-term solution, and it's often about cutting something, doing something fast, and it leads to what Ramunas said. you can have fast results, but they have to be integrated. So you want to know if a intent signal from the market or a signal from the market is coming, and if you don't have any control about your input price, you need to have, and that brings us to the implementation, the right solution to tackle that. So how did and Ramunas already described it, how did we tackle it, right? It all starts with something, and this is the data foundation. So you needed to integrate internal data sources and external data sources near real time in order to make a pricing decision, and then downstream follow the process. So the next step in the framework is the resolution priority, and this is derived from the value you get from the interdependencies which you understand going through that process, right? And then you can, as I mentioned, derive a resolution roadmap in order to tackle in phases what needs to be done to achieve the end-to-end value for this initiative, right? And since we are talking about phases and the downstream process, it's easy to phase it out because one step is dependent on the other and you have a clear flow on what to do. So you get the value fast because you see results also fast, and that's one benefit of knowing how an organization will be impacted and then deriving the resolution priority from there in order to bring the value on the ground.
All right.
And maybe another example, right, to put it into a different context and so show the flexibility of this approach. For example, if you want to improve treasury yield, because of inflation, you want to make your money in the organization worth more, leverage it more, right? And for that you need to increase your working capital. It is pretty high level now, so how do you tackle it actually, right? The procurement department and finance department is a key here, so you need to understand what are the payment terms with the suppliers, for example, in order, so not to, maybe you then decide not to realize early payment discounts, but rather extend the payment terms so that you can keep your cash longer in the organization, working capital, and then use it to get treasury yield, for example, from your financial products.
Good example, Rudi, on that. All right, so we are already on the stage that our product takes shape, right? But real people in the companies need to start to use it, right, Ramunas? And this is how you get adoption going for the solution that you have built under the framework that Rudi very eloquently described. What are typical challenges in adoption period for the solution in your specific case, please?
Well, talking the case we were in with our team, of course, first point without which is absolutely not possible to start any.
You mean team?
Team, yes, team from our side, yes. But also we have to have a team from customer side with same attitude, same vision, same goals, sharing the goals and understanding where we are heading. It's very important. So as we already discussed, we had like priorities, like the roadmap. We understood we have to start with out of all with plenty of pain points. So the first point here, I definitely want to mention that the customer had a really strong leader who was the first person in the customer office, let's say, or offices, who took responsibility, understanding the goal, and we were very much aligned between us, what we are going to achieve, and how we are going to achieve. We knew, we quantified the value, where we can to achieve this value. Now, to achieve this, we had to meet also certain criteria, and we had to implement even new processes. In some cases, change roles between people, and so on and so on. So the first point was the leadership from customer side, and it was a really strong leader who took responsibility, and we were very much aligned. Now, of course, another important point, the sponsorship in the customer organization was as well strong. What I mean, it's top management, alignment with top management as well. So top management was aligned, and we saw what we can deliver. We promised, we came with a promise it can be delivered According to the value framework, it was very clear that all the process we did, we applied the value framework. All the indications showed we can do this. It was very clear that we can do this. So top management believed, said, okay, we have to change our organization. We have to change culture from volume to value. This was like a main idea of the top management, how and why we need to change, because focusing on value, you do not need to rush volume, but you start caring customer and delivering value to customer, and that's why the value comes into the company as well. So we had top management consulship, we had very strong leadership, a person who took responsibility in all change management. And when we step into process, and we decided to go on prototype iterative way. Before starting educating and teaching people to use it, we had to build something which immediately could be a tool to touch the business people and to understand what we are building, not as a final product, but step by step, piece by piece. We do first step, we do a prototype, we run 1, 2, 3, 5 iterations. It depends on how fast we arrive to certain requirement fulfillment. And this was the way we could demonstrate to all business people who were involved in that project that all we discussed, all we talked, all we quantified, all we promised, it starts to become alive. So you have first version, you touch it, and you feel that it works. And this was the way how we engage more and more people around. For some applications, we did even 10 iterations. Why? Because during the process, we were discovering something new, what was left behind the lines while we did a business discovery sessions. That it is absolutely normal. You can't know 100% forward what you are going to need in 5 months. So we ran that process of iterative prototyping for each application, and we knew very clearly where we are directing. We had to achieve the point when we can say margin simulation engine works. And once it was achieved, we started to spread it much, much wider. And to spread wider into organization was already easy job. Why? Because team leaders around the applications we were building, they were already well trained, and they knew what they have, and they could train and share with colleagues very fast. So once you demonstrate that you can negotiate with a customer a new contract within few hours, everyone is very much interested. And once we delivered that, and the process of onboarding of all the rest team started, the usage of the system itself rose 600%. So everyone was just asking for it because the life was much, much easier for every business person. But this meant one thing, that you do not waste time on preparing info for myself before I take decision. The data was there. You had just to take a decision. You have to know what affects final result, and you double checking in procurement, in production, in commercial, market price, and you simulate what will happen if, and finally you arrive to the point where you are satisfied with the decision, because this decision will bring for the next 6 months, next 9 months, a certain value, monetary value of the margin. So not turnover, not volume becomes a core, but the value through the lens of margin becomes the core target I'm seeking for. And this was a cultural change. It was a cultural shift. That's why usage rose so hardly. I mean, rapidly. 6 times to grow it is it's really good result. And this gave huge effect. First of all, future margins were secured, much more and more to future. Looking forward, it was secured. And of course, it cascaded down to bottom line, to top line, to EBITDA level. And the balance sheet, the value of the company was improved. At the final moment, we could say that, well, business people has a tool with which they can enrich the risk management process. And once it started to work, a next level was in place to improve even wider the risk management of the company.
Rudi, listening to what Ramunas is saying again and again, I hear this in the projects, that leadership is the cornerstone of success. Please give us your perspective. How does leadership and mindset challenge applied in this case, and what was actually the bottom line, what Ramunas was saying? You probably have some numbers in store.
Yeah, related to that question, I think mindset is a key topic which determines whether you will be successful or not. Because if you have a transactional mindset in an organization, that means that you act within your own responsibilities. And just by definition, it already puts borders for collaboration with others, right? But it's nothing bad, right? Everyone is hired for something, everyone has contract terms and conditions and so on. And it's totally normal that we have transactional mindsets. Whereas the other extreme is being value-driven. So focusing on stakeholder partnership, if you boil down the ocean, which enables you to eliminate dependencies, eliminate cost center perceptions, and drive real business value. So how can we tie it back to the leadership? Because not everyone can be value-driven. There are some very specific tasks in cooperation where you require very skilled and specialists, basically, skilled people, which are specialists. And that's why it's the tasks of a leadership to drive the right culture to implement, for this example, such a complex improvement, right? So the leader has to also sometimes push when the mindsets are not met. And on the other hand, he has to fuel that mindset. He has to let it grow in the organization. It's not something you apply for one project, everyone is value-driven, and then the project is over, everyone is transactional again, right? It is not the way to go. So it has to be in the roots of an organization.
Thank you, Rudi, on this. And Ramunas, now we have a solution in place. Now it's already adopted. You are spreading it around in the organization. What is the behavioral change to understand the solution in the practice?
I would like to say that the main change was, which was even for people in the organization difficult to understand at the very beginning, that not volume drives your decision. I mean, before, commercial people were thinking on how much to sell. I have to sell more, I have to sell more, I have to sell more, which means that we increasing our capacity, increasing our flow, and this should bring us more value. Unfortunately, it is not the case. So once you have this tool, like margin simulation engine and dynamic margin management, you start evaluate every contract not on volume, not on revenue, but the value, the margin you contracting, what margin you will get. This became a major decision point, what I am looking at. So if I achieve like 5 million margin during a contract with a certain segment of the customers, or one customer even, it doesn't play in a major role the volume itself, because market conditions, capacity to produce, procurement activities which are as well optimal, we can hedge and fulfill the demand for such a contract. So the core point becomes a margin. And now, once you have big deals contracted with many financial instruments, securing margin and so on, all commercial people started to grab much more opportunities in a market appears, which means that the opportunity comes into market, and I am reacting very fast. I know exactly what my production cost is right away, right at that moment, why I'm calling to my customer to to the lead, let's say, while it's not a customer, right? And you do not waste time on simulating, assessing, looking for opportunities, can we or not. You see on the same screen, as you said, driving a car with many indicators. You can immediately see what is production cost after 9 months. Do we have enough capacity in the production lines? Are procurement ready to fulfill their demand as a raw material? And you also benchmark or compare what similar contracts you already concluded in this country, in this region. And if you already have even these contracts in these regions, you can go even higher with the price because you are fast, because you are promising and you are granting the quantities your customer is asking, and you see that you even can earn even higher margin. So I saw this process when the core contracts are signed and sealed. Commercial people using this fast, real-time market data flow could sign much more smaller contracts with much higher margin, but margin in monetary value, not a percentage. And this change that you do not run after volume, but you look for value, was a major change that we have to support each other to grant to my colleague let's say, data with a very high quality, so that based on that he can take a decision. Once you grant that, you start collaborate between each other, and going together, you always will go far. So this was a core, let's say, change. Even in discussions near the coffee machine in the office of the customer, they were talking not like how many trucks you sold of this product. No, how much you fixed and secured margin in money, but not in volumes, not in whatever other measures. And this was really big change. It was really big change. And what else it gave as well, that this, as Rudi mentioned as well, about this operational scalability. Once you are very fast, another effect which came immediately into organization, they could expand rapidly without hiring double the team. So we had expansion abroad, I mean international expansion, and still the same team could manage all the process of contracting and securing the margins, because the solution works without the borders. It's a global market. It's a global price fluctuations. It's a global processed products which you are selling, but you can act it in one place as near huge informative trading desk. Once the process works.
Yeah. Great, Ramunas. Sounds like a company really built a competitive advantage by increasing the speed from, I believe it was like weeks now to the hours or minutes, or what was it?
When we started the process to, let's say, you are getting, let's say, inquiry for a certain amount of the product to produce. And it took, in different cases, it was 3-4 weeks. And after implementing the solution, we can do it within hours.
Great stuff.
Sometimes
Impressive.
in a few hours, sometimes in 5, but you are able to do it.
Impressive. And Rudi, as you were participating, how you quantified the end result? Do you have some numbers to share? What company actually gained going through the value framework and building dynamic margin simulation solution?
So when it comes to value, this specific customer achieved with this solution a 4% annual margin improvement, which equals to 20 million. And then Ramunas was talking about they can tackle more demand with their existing team, right? So this plays into operational scalability. That may not be a financial decision-making criteria, but in the long term it is, because it improves your headcount. You can grow longer with existing teams and avoid the associated cost with growing with headcount rather than with technology improvement, right? And then there was also the bottom line that we were able to consolidate, I think it was 4 vendors across this whole landscape, which you can imagine if you don't have to manage 4 separate companies in your day-to-day business, and the associated solution with it and the business connection with it, with the business users, that's a value not only for certain important KPIs of the organization, but also for the operations, for the people who work in the organization, so that everyone gets a piece of it, right?
Right. Significant improvement, guys. Rudi, if a C-suite level executive will come to you and say that he is just too busy on daily life to look at the value framework, and what would you say to them?
One number we put into the business case is the cost of delay. So if you don't have the time to evaluate how your company can improve certain important KPIs in the organization, then you miss out on value. And this reflects in the cost of delay. So if you delay a decision, it will cost you money. So I would say reach out to us, and if you don't have a time, use our time in order to help you with identifying value and quantifying it before change happens.
All right. Okay. And okay, you convinced me. It is value. I'm not delaying. So where should I start? So what is the first step the executives need to consider to actually go into the framework value model?
So I mean, there's a general topic on that, but we tailor it now to our platform, to Qlik, right? And since we can provide strategic value, so enterprise scale digitization from data to outcome, it makes sense to start with an interdependent process. There is like record to report, procure to pay, and so on. And this is where we see that the most value can be achieved, because naturally there's a lot of disconnections due to the process. And that's basically a starting point, defining an area which you want to look at, and then have conversations with the business people, just open conversations. That's how everything starts, about what they do, what their pain points are, and that will help you to derive what to do.
Perfect, guys. It was such a pleasure to speak with you. And if I understand correctly, you are not stopping here. You are modularizing and building this solution to be available for a market. Is that so, or Ramunas, can you share?
Let's say every month we are improving. First of all, this engine by applying different features and important aspects for different companies, different industries. If you will look at different industries within a commodity market segment, there are probably 26 of them, just sharing a different sensitivity of volatility. And the vulnerability is different, but it has different aspects on that. But our goal is, of course, is to create it as a product and to offer as a I like to say as a bulletproof process, which is short and fast, in order to show how fast you can see how your organization reflects to the external factors which are changing daily, hourly, sometimes in a minutes. Mm-hmm. So this is our goal, and we are forwarding to it, especially with the help of value framing process, which demonstrated Rudi, and we were working together on that. Mm-hmm. We see more and more, let's say, structured methodically how it has to be built in order to apply or be adaptable to many different organizations. Doesn't matter in which industry you are, you always are affected by external factors, and you have to know how to react. Your reaction into external factors always gives a clear understanding how fast you can adapt it.
Mm-hmm. So basically you are improving a solution, it's already available up for grabs. People just need to call you guys and start thinking whether this is applicable for their case and with what kind of value it will actually impact the company, potential new companies that you are both going to be engaged, correct?
Yes.
So, wrapping it up, so what started with the collaboration of two people from different companies by creating one solution now becomes a repeatable way in the market to create value. So basically, this is, guys, what you are doing. And if you can connect the analytics to the decisions, you are basically creating competitive advantage for the specific company. And you just shared, guys, how you did it in your specific use case. And before we say goodbyes to our audience, any final thoughts about what we discussed, or how people can reach out to you, where they can find you? Please share. Ramunas, let's go with you first.
Most probably the only thing which I would like definitely to share, please do not be afraid to experiment. In experimentation, the truth comes. You can't draw on a paper exactly how you will achieve the result. Once you know the result, experiment. While you are experimenting, you will always find something new. You always will discover something new. And while you are doing this external market, external factors are even triggering you to brainstorm and find the new ideas. And this is a question of process, how to organize the process. Let's not be fixed to the final date and the results or targets were drawn a month or a half a year ago. Be flexible and always manage what not to do in the wrong way. And as many people you will join, as many common denominators you will find, as fast as your organization will start working on a value-driven mindset. This is a core point, and this is exactly what I'm always looking for in each organization.
Good point, Ramunas. Rudi?
I want to double down on what Ramunas said on experimenting, right? It ties directly to collaboration. We collaborated in this engagement, right? We created something which we are confident provides value from a solution and framework perspective to our customers, and it just shows what talking to other people can bring to you, right? Different experiences join in order to create something bigger, and this is what we are here for. If anything of what we discussed today is interesting for anyone in our audience, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Rudi. Thank you, Ramunas. And with that, we are saying goodbye until the next time, and please focus on the decisions that create value.